A trail camera took a picture of my bunkhouse at exactly 7:14 p.m. on October 16, 2024. In the photograph, there is a figure standing beside my truck, about 40 feet from the kitchen window. The strange part is, at 7:14, I was standing at that window. I was looking through binoculars at another figure standing on a ridge 200 yards away. I watched that figure for nearly 5 minutes. I never saw the one standing behind my truck. My name is Tyler. I am 31, and back in mid October of 2024, I was working a seasonal contract for a state wildlife agency in the Appalachian Mountains of southwestern Virginia, near the edge of the Jefferson National Forest. I was part of an elk survey program. My job was straightforward but exhausting. I had a designated grid where I placed, checked, and reset trail cameras. During my 1 week rotation, I stayed alone in a small Forest Service bunkhouse at the end of a long gravel road. The bunkhouse was basically a heavy wooden box with a metal roof. It had electricity and running water, but almost no cell service. I used a satellite hotspot to text my supervisor, Dave. Most mornings I left around 7 and hiked 8 to 12 miles with a bag full of batteries, SD cards, and food. I usually got back around 6, exhausted. My evenings were always the same: boots on the porch, chili or soup on the stove, then 3 hours at the kitchen table, going through thousands of trail camera photos on my laptop. Most of them were useless: branches moving in the wind, squirrels, and deer. I was looking for elk. The property sat in a slight depression surrounded on 3 sides by steep ridges covered in pines and bare oaks. The first strange thing happened Tuesday evening. I went outside to grab a charging cable from my truck. The sun was almost down, leaving that dark blue light between dusk and night. As I shut the truck door, I looked toward the ridge facing the bunkhouse. There was a figure standing up there. It was tall and thin, and completely still. It was probably 200 yards away and high up the slope, so I couldn't make out any features. My first thought was a black bear standing on its hind legs. I watched it for about 30 seconds. It didn't move. I shrugged it off, grabbed my cable, and went inside. The next evening, I saw it again. I was washing my chili pot when I happened to look through the kitchen window toward the same ridge. The figure was there. Same location, same posture. This time I grabbed my binoculars. Through the lenses, the shape was still difficult to see, but I could tell it was not a bear. It was too tall, too vertical. It looked almost exactly like a person wearing heavy, shapeless clothing. But something about its position bothered me. If someone were walking along that ridge, their body should have been angled with the slope. This thing was facing directly toward the bunkhouse, toward me. I watched it for nearly 5 minutes. It never moved, not its arms, not its head, nothing. I assumed it was a hunter or possibly a poacher watching the property. The survey cameras were expensive, and some locals didn't like government workers putting equipment in the woods. So I connected my satellite hotspot and texted Dave. I wrote, "Pretty sure there is a guy on the ridge watching the cabin, probably a hunter." Dave replied a few minutes later, "Make sure the truck is locked. Don't go up there. I'll let the regional warden know in the morning." I locked the truck and the bunkhouse door. Before closing the blinds, I looked at the ridge one last time. The figure was still there. I went to bed and eventually fell asleep. Thursday morning, the ridge was empty. That afternoon, I spent hours checking cameras along a creek about 3 miles from the bunkhouse. I also checked a security camera Dave had asked me to install near the clearing. It was pointed toward my truck and the area around the cabin. I got back around 6, ate dinner, and sat down with my laptop. I started going through the security camera files. Most showed nothing except my truck, me leaving in the morning, me returning in the evening. Then I opened one image and stopped. It was a night vision photograph. The truck was visible in the foreground. The gravel driveway was empty, and just beyond the truck, near the woodpile, stood a figure. Tall, upright, perfectly still. It looked like a person wearing something heavy and shapeless, and it was facing directly toward the bunkhouse. I stared at the image. Then I checked the timestamps. 10/16/2024, 9:14, 7:14 pm, Wednesday night. I immediately checked my phone. My text to Dave about the man on the ridge had been sent at 7:17. I remembered exactly what I had been doing at 7:14. I had been standing at the kitchen window with binoculars. I had been watching the figure on the ridge, 200 yards away. I had my eyes locked on it, but the photograph showed something else. Something standing 40 feet from my kitchen window, behind my truck. At the exact same time, I sat there staring at the screen. I had not heard footsteps. I had not heard gravel crunch. I hadn't seen anything moving near the woodpile, and from the kitchen window I should have been able to see that area. But I had not been looking there. I had been watching the ridge. I locked the door, then I checked it again. I pulled every blind shut and sat in the armchair with my pocket knife on the table beside me. I felt ridiculous, but I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I drove to higher ground until I got a real cell signal and called Dave. I sent him the photograph. His explanation was simple. He thought there were two poachers, one on the ridge acting as a lookout, another near the bunkhouse, checking out my truck. It made sense. He told me to move two survey cameras and point them toward the ridge. He also told me to keep the security camera on the driveway. The regional game warden came by that afternoon and checked the property. He found no obvious boot prints near the woodpile. The ground was hard and covered in pine needles, so there was not much to see. I decided to finish the contract. I only had 2 days left. For the rest of the week, I stopped looking toward the ridge at dusk. I kept the blinds closed, the doors locked. Nothing appeared on the cameras. The security camera never photographed anyone near the woodpile again. No one else on the survey team ever reported anything strange in that area. Dave's two poacher theory still makes the most sense. It's logical. It's what I tell people when they ask. But I still have that photograph saved on my laptop, and sometimes I open it. I look at the figure standing beside my truck. Then I think about the figure I was watching on the ridge. The posture is identical, both completely motionless, both facing directly toward me. And sometimes I wonder if Dave was right. Maybe there really were two people out there, or maybe I was staring at a dead stump on the ridgeline the entire time. Because if that's what I was looking at, then the real thing was standing 40 feet outside my window, watching me look in the wrong direction.